University, Professor Nuamah, American voters were constantly told that Harris had a slight lead against Trump and in opinion polls, but he appears to have won by a wide margin. How did he pull this off?
Well, Esther, polls can always be misleading, especially when it comes to minority candidates. In social science, there's the Bradley effect, named for the former mayor of Los Angeles, Tom Bradley, who ran for governor, and he was ahead in the polls, but he ended up losing to his white competitor. And the suggestion is that when you poll people about whether they're going to vote for a black candidate, they usually lie because they usually worried that you might think that they're racist. So polls are usually inaccurate when it comes to minority candidates. And also, there are people who look at the presidency as an anthropological job. They're not selecting somebody who's best for the economy. They're selecting somebody who's the leader of the tribe. And so if you are not the person that fits that profile, they may vote against you. So when Jack Kennedy, for example, ran for president as the first Catholic, he had to give a speech saying he wasn't going to take orders from the Pope. Barack Obama had to give a speech, denouncing his black pastor. And Kamala Harris didn't have time to do all that stuff. Remember, she only had 4 months to run for president. She ended up with 66 million votes. So she did very well, but she didn't have the time to, define herself, to assuage all the fears that other people have. The things that they don't tell pollsters.
All right,
because they are afraid might think.
Let's move on to Africa, because there are a lot of people wondering, okay, Trump is in. What's likely to be his policy for the continent?
Well, so Biden was going to push for Africa to have representation, permanent seats in the UN Security Council. I don't think Trump is going to do that. There are a number of things that are coming, Africa-specific things that is going to land on his desk. So the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, for example, is about to be renewed. He's probably not going to do it because he's pushing for tariffs, and that bill will give Africa tariff-free access to American markets. He's not going to do that. There is also protective status for Africans from about 5 countries who are allowed to stay here because there are wars in their country. He's probably not going to renew that. You also have the president's emergency plan for HIV/AIDS relief research. He's probably going to insist, Republicans will always do this, they're going to insist that there are abortion-related restrictions. So that's going to affect African service providers who rely on that. Then there's also the question of whether he's going to do his Muslim ban, which will affect a lot of African countries. So yeah, Africa will probably not fare very well in this administration, but anything can change.
Professor, he comes in at a time of war in the Middle East. There's the Russia-Ukraine war as well, and in Africa there's the war going on in Sudan. How do you think he's going to address these wars amid America's economic issues?
Well, different outcomes. So already in Israel, people on the right are celebrating because they expect that Trump will give them a free hand to do whatever they want to do. So they are very happy with that. Then you go to Ukraine. Remember, Ukraine is why he was impeached the first time. And I think that he hasn't forgiven the president of Ukraine for that. So he might cut funding for Ukraine. When it comes to Sudan, he actually did a deal with Sudan where Sudan recognized Israel in exchange for Trump lifting sanctions. So because he's transactional, he might be able to do something over there, but I don't think he cares enough about Sudan to actually use his political capital to push the peace process. But like I said, we don't really know because he's, erratic, and he's also transactional, so his views may change.